Welcome to the Ant-Man channel on this Wednesday, the 19th of June, 2013. You know what? I'm going to decide that since I have the peace of God living in me, I don't even care. Nothing in this world that's going on really even, it doesn't bother me. That's the good thing about having that gift of God, is that you can see everything going on, yet you're not even affected by it. You're just living your life. See, I can dance, I can sing, even though I know what's going on. Just because you're informed doesn't mean you should be sad and, oh, the world's not perfect. Of course it's not perfect. But doesn't mean you have to be living in fear all your life. Anyway, WND exclusive. Congress wakes up to cataclysmic threat. Plans and works to counter event that could trigger mass starvation. If you know me, you know that I always report about EMPs, about electromagnetic pulses, because our infrastructures are so heavily electronic nowadays that if we got hit by an EMP, all of our systems would go down. Your electricity would go out, water, food, everything. So a lot of our infrastructures here in the United States are all electronic. So if we were hit by an EMP, our defenses would be so down, we would be so vulnerable to all of our enemies in this world. So this is a article by F. Michael Maloof, and it's coming from Washington. I'm going to read you this, and I'm when it comes to a lot of issues, I'm not the best when it comes to the monetary system. I'm not the biggest on just a lot of issues, but this is one of the issues that I am good at explaining. So let's just go into it. As the technologically sophisticated U.S. faces the increasing threat of an electromagnetic pulse attack from a man-made high-altitude nuclear explosion or an inevitable massive solar flare, Republicans in the U.S. House are trying to prepare a defense. They are proposing legislation to protect the vulnerable U.S. electrical grid from an attack so cataclysmic 90% of Americans could be affected, including many who would face starvation. The legislation aims to get the federal government to ensure that vital hardware and other devices are installed in the national grid system to protect critical infrastructure, such as systems that supply water, food, fuel, communications, transportation, financial transactions, and emergency services. See, I mean, what would the government do if we had an electromagnetic pulse take everything out? Well, first of all, they would martial law lock down everything. They would get you so afraid of the government that you would listen to them on everything. They would come to your house, pick you up, take you to their re-education camp so that they can feed you. Have you ever seen that movie Soylent Green, but with the guy that plays Moses in the Ten Commandments, Charlton Heston, the guy that's famously quoted, "You can have my guns when you pry them from my cold dead hands." That Charlton Heston. He was in a movie called Soylent Green, and that movie's very eye-opening to the whole military state, how you're going to be standing in line waiting for food, and it's not going to even be real food. It's going to be like this stuff that they make just to keep you alive. The protection would be employed by hardening the grid to ensure that it can be brought back should it be subjected to such an event. The alternative, said Representative Trent Franks, he's a Republican from Arizona, who will introduce the legislation called the SHIELD Act, could leave the nation without electricity for months and possibly years, and affect some 90% of the American people, subjecting them to starvation and death. I mean, if you guys know what starving is like, it's not fun. Starving is one of the worst things you could ever feel. SHIELD stands for Secure High Voltage Infrastructure for Electricity from Lethal Damage Act. You see, the general public, when you try to warn them about stuff like this, they just go, ha 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 ha. They laugh at their own death. That's what people do when you try to warn them about stuff. It's like, everything's funny. Everyone's so arrogant and stupid that they just laugh on impulse because they don't know how else to react to this kind of stuff. They're so decadent and so caught up in their vampire romances and their zombie movies that they don't care about anything else. They're like unconscious, walking around already dead. So let's just look into this. He is accompanied by former Republican House Speaker Newt Gingrich, Chicken Hawk, who has been outspoken in recent years on the threat of an EMP attack. There is a Nation Forsaken, a book written by Michael Maloof, F. Michael Maloof, that it's saying is a good book, and I'm pretty sure it is. I've never read it, but I've heard a lot of good things about it. Gingrich believes an EMP event is the greatest national security threat facing the United States today. Franks explained that the U.S. is not more vulnerable than before, but has become a victim of our technological sophistication and scientific advancement. Why does the U.S. need to be vulnerable to such a threat? He asked. EMP is the ultimate cybersecurity threat. In terms of coping with external man-made threats, Franks pointed out that Congress has seen it to that the military's triad or land, sea, and air assets have been hardened against the prospect of an EMP attack. Yet the military is 99% dependent on the national grid, making it difficult for it to respond in the event of such an attack. Let's see. He pointed out that at the cost of 2 B-2 strategic bombers, the U.S. could fix the grid so that it could come back in short order should it be brought down. The SHIELD Act is a bill that goes in the right direction, he said. The legislation passed the House in the last Congress, but never made it through the Senate. Sources on Frank's staff said that they are actively looking for a Senate version, possibly to be introduced by Senator Saxby Chambliss, a Republican from Georgia. The SHIELD Act would amend the Federal Power Act to encourage cooperation between industry and government in developing and implementing standards and processes needed to address the shortcomings and vulnerabilities of the grid to a major EMP event. It does not include provisions to deal with cybersecurity threats, which legislators decided to leave to a separate bill. However, Frank said that an EMP attack, whether natural or man-made, would be the ultimate cybersecurity threat. Well, if you've been looking at the news, they're saying, that some scientists that think that they're smarter than everyone say the sun has nothing to do with the environment. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. The sun has everything to do with the environment. So does the moon. The moon has a lot to do with how the ocean, the gravitational pulling of, the waters and all that, has a lot to do with our weather. You know what I mean? Solar flares are constantly going toward the Earth all the time, and this affects our entire environment. That's just a natural thing that happens. Even our highest technology we cannot do anything about that. It's just the way it works. There are solar flares all the time going toward the Earth, and it's always bouncing off the Earth. Like if the moon is in front, if the sun and the moon and the Earth are perfectly aligned, the solar flares bounce off of the moon and still go toward us. The legislation also would give the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission authority to develop standards, but won't preclude industry from developing its own. The increased authority is necessary to protect the entire grid. A congressional fact sheet on the SHIELD Act said some industry stakeholders may develop these standards on their own, but unless the entire grid is uniformly resilient to EMP, cascading effects of blackouts resulting from stakeholders that did not protect their entities from EMP will most likely still cause rolling blackouts and massive outages. Still have a little bit of time. I could read this. If you want to go look at it for yourself, it's Congress Wakes Up to Cataclysmic Threat on Wnddotcom. Let's see, the legislation also offers hardware-based solutions available at minimal cost. The hardware will automatically react to an EMP disturbance, removing the guessing game operators currently face. If we are going to be serious about avoiding such a cataclysmic event as an EMP, a priority on this legislation is greater than defense spending, Gingrich said. We can literally see a civilization crash, he said, referring to the U.S. dependency on the grid's technology-based infrastructure. He pointed out that the people of the Netherlands have a particular problem with their dikes. If repair is neglected, he said that more than 40% of the country would be underwater. Consequently, he said there is no question in their minds to maintain the dike system because of this alternative. The same should apply to the U.S. ensuring protection of the U.S. electrical grid system. We could lose 90% of the population if an EMP only hit the U.S., Gingrich asserted. The U.S. then would have massive needs of foreign assistance if no other country were affected. That would mean we'd lose our sovereignty, Gingrich declared. Well, yeah, I mean, we have our sovereignty, yeah, but I mean, it's kind of not under our control anymore. It's under the control of a foreign banker cartel. Peter Vincent Price, staff director of the original EMP commission that first revealed the threat of an EMP hit on the nation's critical infrastructures, pointed out that Russia and China and even North Korea would be the only countries prepared for an EMP event. In effect, they would emerge as the new world leaders. If the U.S. became disabled from an EMP attack, is that what we want? The problem, Frank said, is fixable. Earlier this week, WND reported Maine became the first state in the nation to pass legislation ordering its grid to be hardened against an electromagnetic pulse event. The law not only required preparation against the natural or man-made EMP, it encourages other states to take a similar initiative, since the federal government has refused to make the potential for an EMP event a priority. Well, yeah, they would love for 90% of us to die, wouldn't they? The act to secure the safety of electrical transmission lines was introduced by Maine Representatives Andrea Boland and a Democrat from Sanford. Whoa, I mean, this is all a scenario. You know what I mean? Like nothing is. I don't believe in a future that is absolutely going to happen no matter what we do, but I believe in a future that will happen if we do nothing. Absolutely, not my own quote. Pretty much. All I have to say about this stuff is that it's a true thing that our infrastructures are 100%, almost 100% electric. Like they are ran on energy. They are run on the energy of the power plants that we make and all that stuff. So how do we fix this? Well, I always say pray with all pray a lot, pray without ceasing all the time. Know that our liberty is such a fickle thing, man. You could lose it if you don't know how to protect it. Our liberty did not come free. A lot of people were willing to die for this liberty. So, ignorance is probably one of the biggest things in our country that are making us very vulnerable to these types of scenarios. So, the government's not our best interest is not their best interest. Their best interest is well, what they're interested in is seeing us fall. They do want to see us fall. Let's not play games here. They want us dead. So let's just we need to learn how to get all this dividing stuff out of the way. All the gangbanging, all the racism, all the rich poor bullcrap. We need to learn how to work together, or else we're all going down with the ship. So with that, I'm just gonna leave you with that to think about. Join my channel, subscribe, whatever, watch it, I hope that, I encourage you, I'm not the best example, but then again, who is, but it's good to be an empowered person who makes up their own opinions, dude. I'm not saying that I'm right about everything, but I'm saying that at least I pay attention to facts that are not facts, but issues that are actually, that are, more important than, Kim Kardashian's new baby or whatever, So, I don't know. God bless you guys.